Okay, following on from the fantastic description there of pop art from the 1960s and looking at the artist Andy Warhol and learning about the culture from the 1960s, and again this use of bringing in objects from mass consumerism into art, we're now going to do our demonstration. We're also going to look at another artist as well that not many people know about. He was a British artist called Michael English, and he also used everyday objects that he found, often discarded, and that's why this demonstration, it's about us being able to find things, maybe things that you've got that would normally go in the bin, that you might look at again and think, do you know what, I'm going to make some art from that. So we're using some really simple bits of art materials to, you know, that you may have lying around at home. So we're going to start off, if you can find some tape, that's great. It might be just sellotape, it doesn't really matter, unless you use a really steady hand. But if you can find some tape of any kind, that's going to really help. Black paint, okay, this is acrylic, but you could probably get away with poster paint as well. This is important. You might not have this, but maybe you could look at using some nail varnish or something like that that's got a metallic, because this is a silver paint. Okay, you see, that's going to really help to give us that sort of metallic, sort of aluminium colour that the can's made out of. Red as well, because we're looking at the colours of the can. This is my intact can, we've just had a drink, okay, and the primary colours that are in there as well. We've got this beautiful shade of red, we've got the blacks, and we've also got this aluminium can colour. You need a little bit of water, 2 paintbrushes, a tissue as well. I've not put the tissue here, but maybe a tissue to dry your brushes out. In the art room we normally use plastic pallets, but again, if you look around, maybe beg or borrow one of the plates, but wash it before you put it back. Okay, so this is the kind of effect that we're trying to get, again using this discarded can. If you look at the paper as well, it's all crinkled up, but that is a beautiful part of it. We can iron this flat and press it and then put it in your art folders as well. Okay, so we're just about to start the presentation. So to create our image of a Coke can onto the paper, as I've done with this earlier one, we're just going to start off. The very first thing we need to do is take our flattened can, and what I'm going to do is try to tape it down best as I can to the table. Okay, try and get it as secure as I can so it's fixed to the table itself. Then I'm going to take a piece of paper, in this case it's a piece of A3, and I'm going to lay it down on the table itself, and I want to fix this into place as well. So with some bits of tape, okay, in the corners. Okay, so this could be a piece of sellotape. Just be careful when using sellotape, because when you come to peel it off, it can tear the paper itself. So masking tape is a little bit more forgiving. Taping this down. Now what I need to do, I know I've got my can there in the middle, but I now want to just, I've got my little hinges here at the top, in the top corners. So now what I'm going to do is peel this back. Okay, just let it rest like that. And now I'm going to mix my colours up. I'm going to try and get these metallics. So the black, as you can see on the can itself, it's a solid black, it's a pure black. So think about it, you only need a small amount. Okay, it does get noisy, but this is great art as well. Okay, so then your reds. So in this case I'm using kind of poster paint from somewhere like the Range, so you don't need expensive acrylic paint. And then a silver paint here, or metallic. This is just to simulate the aluminium can. So I'm going to start by taking the aluminium paint, okay, and then just carefully painting the can itself as neat as you can on the lines. So you're just painting the aluminium part of the can. This takes quite a while. Okay, so I'm trying to keep that edge as neat as I can. Okay, and then it's really important you do the mouth part of the can. Get your paint dolloped into that area. And the idea of this is if the paint's wet, when the paper is applied to it, it softens the paper, because you'll see shortly how we need that paper to be softened a little bit, because we want it to go into these little cavities and shapes and mould itself. Okay, so that's the silver applied. Okay, so work with the lightest colours first. So we'll actually clean that off, and miraculously we found some tissue paper here now. Give it another clean. And we're always saying in the art room, keep your colours really pure. Okay, so I'm now going to add some of this silver and red together. I'm going to blend them. Okay. So although it doesn't really look like it at the moment, it's got tiny little fragments of metallic paint in there, and that's what's going to create the reflection parts of your tin. Don't worry about the Coca-Cola writing itself, that's something we're going to do later. We're just looking at breaking it down into its most simple parts, so silver, black and red. So we're going to do the main part of the tin itself now. Keep your edges like that. It's a good thing this, because it lets you know that you've gone right across. Yeah, gone right across your can, because it obliterates all the text, all the writing. Okay, so you can see you're getting it all the bits. So again, go into all these tiny little cavities here where the metal's folded when it was put under pressure with your foot, because that's again this happy accident that Kerry and I are always talking about in art. When you lift your foot back, you don't know what's actually happened to the can. Okay, it will have took on its own sort of shape, and that's what makes it interesting, because when you put this painting next to this print, next to your other can, you'll see the difference. So it could be like the front and the back, and again that's going to give you extra marks in an art exam, because you're really exploring shapes. Okay, so I'm going around looking for any pieces that I might have inadvertently missed out. So I'm pretty sure you're thinking now I've not done the black bits, and you're right. So I can leave that there. I've got another brush. Okay, and now I'm going to apply the black. Now the black is really, really thick paint, so you could just break it down a bit. We want this again to be kind of liquid, because we want it to go inside all the folds of the metal, and also to soften the paper, as we spoke about. So again, it's funny, if you just let the brush follow the shape of the can, you get really neat edges. Don't try to imagine something that isn't there. Yeah, just let the can sort of dictate what you do with your brush. Just fold it around those shapes. Okay, we've got paper there, but we're going to paint right over that paper. On this side. Again, you might want to move around, because we can't move the can around, so it's about you using your body to move it around that shape, because this is fixed, isn't it? Okay, so bring it up to there. And of course, all this time that you're waiting, the paint is slowly drying. Now I can see a little something that I want to just neaten up there, so I'm going to wash the brush. Okay, and just add a little bit more silver around the rim. There we go, just to neaten it up. Okay, and a tiny little bit of silver for the people who just noticed that. Okay, so at the moment we've got the can, it's soaking wet. We can move this out of the way. And now here's where the truth is. So you can just bring your paper now, and because it's like on a hinge, like a cupboard door, and just bring it across. Yeah, and put the tape down to hold it, lock it into place. Okay, now here's the best bit. really careful, because the can might have some folded bits of metal on it that may be sharp. So this is where you go really, really slowly. So you can even close your eyes for this and just feel around, and you actually start to feel the shape of the can. So if you're looking now, yeah, it doesn't happen at first, it's a really slow process, because what's happening, the paper is getting softer and softer as it comes into contact with the paint. So I'm rubbing into all these little cavities. Now the temptation is, like for most people now, would want to lift it up and see what they've got already, but you risk then having smeared edges and it won't be as precise. You want to take some time, so you're just feeling into all these little tiny shapes, and you'd be surprised, because we can't see it, we don't know really what happened to that can in that crushing process. So again, you're just pressing down, feeling round, and actually you can start to see, even in the crinkles in the paper, you can see the can itself. Okay, so you're feeling round. So any little cavity, just press down, use your fingers, and push down into them gaps. Okay, this is really important that you go around this shape again, because it reveals the ring pull. Okay. So we've been doing this now for about 2 minutes. It's fine because it's airtight at the moment, so the air's not really getting in there, so the paint isn't actually starting the drying process, so you can just feel it into them shapes. And this is a test now, because if you press too hard, so you can use your nails, if you press too hard the paper will tear. Okay, but the argument could be, does that add to it? Because the can itself, the metal's torn, hasn't it? So again, you could try one being kind of gentle, or another one where you're a little bit more applying that pressure to see what you get. So again, I'm going into all these shapes. There you go, it's torn on that case. But when we flatten it all out, so this is called contact print, because we've applied paint or a liquid surface. It could have been ink, it could have been paint itself, it could be watercolour, and then we're pushing something against it. Okay, a bit like doing a brass rubbing that they used to do in churches on gravestones. Okay, so here's where the magic happens now. It's either worked or it hasn't. Okay, so yeah, we've got a torn edge. Don't let that put you off. Don't start thinking it's your work's ruined. Okay, and then when we lift it up, so you can now leave your can out of the way. Just leave it there to one side. Peel it off. Put your can round in front of you. Yeah, we've got torn edges. What you can do now is clean your brush. You've got these fantastic outlines. Okay. So what you can do is take your can and start to look, and maybe just dab some extra colour in there to give you a more solid surface. Again, I'm only dabbing it because I don't want to paint it all out, because I want some of these little lines here, these highlights, to look like the folded metal. So again, if you just use the brush like that and build up that shape, and if you look at the edge of the brush where it's coming in, I'm keeping that circle there, which is the wrinkle shape on the can. Okay, so we're just slowly matching this up. Okay, and then it disappears here, the black goes, doesn't it? If you look closely, you can actually see at this point the black's gone. So don't paint in something that you can't see. Be truthful to it. Okay, so you can make the edges more defined here. What we can. This one across here at the top, just that bit there. So again, using the edge of your brush, because it's got a really nice flat edge. So again, you're kind of printing here. This is painting, but it's like using the edge of the the paintbrush itself almost like a print block, so you're just pushing it in, and again that adds to the overall effect. More of this defined. There we go, just pushing it in. And you've got your basic shape there. Again, you can go in with some red. Keep your water clean. And again, you could just come into some of these white areas here, just using that dab technique. Okay. And leaving some of the white in there, because again you can see some of the reflections. And then what you need to do now is you can either let it dry naturally in the air, or take a hairdryer and just dry it, very, very slowly. We want to get that surface as dry as we can. I can see here now the way the light's hitting the colour in the red, I can see the actual metallic parts coming through, so it really does sort of simulate the can itself, the silver parts of it. So after leaving your can to dry, we can now look at doing the drawing. So what I've done first as well is I've washed the can so I can reveal all the text that's on there, and I'm going to start drawing some of this lovely shaped calligraphy that's on there, so it's distinct for the Coca-Cola sign. And I always say that if you mask something off and showed somebody that little part, you could take that anywhere around the world and somebody would look at it and say, oh, that's Coca-Cola, because it's distinctive to that piece of writing. Okay, again, the C in there. If you saw that on the corner just sticking out from a building, you'd know it was a shop that was selling Coca-Cola. That's how ubiquitous or everywhere the name is for Coca-Cola. So I'm going to hold that there now and start in this corner. I'm just going to use the white pens that Kerry and I love. Okay, so I'm going to get it working first and just start in one little area. Okay, just do one bit at a time. Now, again, it's that thing about observational drawing, just draw what you see. So we know that C's somehow gone round the back of the can, so that's all I'm going to draw. And think about the thickness, okay, of the text, and it actually starts to go a little bit wider as it comes down there. Okay, and there's no line at the end, it just disappears off. So what this should do, if the paint's dry, it should start to go from red to white. Okay, you may get a few lines in there, just leave that. Don't be tempted to keep going over it, because the writing will turn pink. Leave it and let it dry, and then you can put another coat of the white pen over it. Okay, so somewhere around here now, bring this curve and just do a little bit at a time. Rather than do the great big curve, just think, right, I'll just do that little bit. Okay, and once I've done that, step back a bit and then think, right, I'll do another kind of centimetre of the writing. I'm not going to do the whole lot, but I'm looking at the direction where that C is going. Okay, again, let it dry. I'm left-handed, so I'm going across the work, so I'm being really careful that I don't smear my hand. You may be going the other way. Okay, so that's C. Again, just a centimetre at a time, just so you don't get overwhelmed. Okay, make sure your pen's flowing, because these do have a tendency to get clogged with any paint that may have gone around the ball bearing. Okay, so I'm actually going to leave that just for a little bit. I'm going to think about putting the O in. So, okay, think about the gap between there and the C. And look at the gap between the bottom of the O. Just bring it round. Okay. Just continue that shape round. Okay, so Coca-Cola writing, it's like an old style script, so it's broader, it's wider there, but it's quite narrow on that bit. Again, it's to replicate calligraphy, which is handwriting. So this side is pretty thin. Okay. Again, if you can see a little bit of red coming through. Just leave them, doesn't matter. Okay. We'll make that a little bit thicker. By doing that, it makes the red in the middle narrower. And then I want that continuation there as it links to the letter C. Comes through, little curve. Straight away. And I reckon if you showed that to somebody else now, even at that stage, people will go, oh, it's a can of Coke. Definitely a can of Coke. It's that new Coke Zero. Because again, they have this band around it with a 0 sugar on it. Okay, so we'll look at bringing that riser. So I'll do the last C, and then I'm going to let you guys continue and do your own version. Okay. Remember, there's a nice gap there as the C comes up. Again, it's quite broad there, it's wide, you can see. The temptation is to try and think about finishing, getting everything done in, you know, one session, but you know, you might want to just take a break now, let it dry. Step back from the work, just put it up on the wall and have a look at it. That's a good thing to do, just about being patient with the work sometimes. Just taking a really good observation of it. So again, because this area is dried out now, let's see if I can put a bit of white over it. There you go, it's started to work. So I can see some writing here as well. So I can introduce that. So again, I'm only drawing what I see. I'm not making any other words up. Okay, I've not sucked the paint off there, so I'm just putting down what I see, nothing more. So you could leave that to dry now. Work over the white, bring the white back out again, get it really, really prominent, and then finishing off your remainder lettering. This C is quite difficult, but just think about, keep looking, working out the proximity and the scale, looking at the lettering. Obviously there's a straight line all the way across between these letters here, so keep that considered. So what I'll do, I'll just finish off this little stylized flourish thing here on the lettering. Okay, so it's kind of like, see where Nike might have got their idea from for the swoosh thing. Again, this is distinctive. Okay. Paint is a little bit lumpy and bumpy, so just about being gentle with it, putting the paint into place. So keep looking. Go. So it's slowly developing. I don't know whether you can see it where the camera's picking it up, but when I move across the picture, when I move my head and look this way, okay, and from different angles, it's actually picking up the metallic elements in the can, the bits of metallic paint, to really good effect. And again, if you compare it now with the one that we did earlier, okay, with its creases and all, you can see that that would be a really good study. So if you were submitting this for your folder and your portfolio towards your GCSE work, you'd get a really high mark for this, because again, you've used so many different materials, you've used printing, you used a technique that may not have been showing up in GCSE art before, and again, the examiners who come in, they love seeing you experimenting with new ways of doing things. These areas here, okay, we can work these areas back where your mouth goes in to the hole. You can pencil that in and bring a little bit of shape back in. Again, it may be in biro, it might be pencil, graphite, anything that you want. Again, you could have a background, so we could use photography. You might want to go outside and photograph the gutter, and we could have this lying down as though it's been discarded in the gutter. And again, it's showing that you're critically engaging with this world around you. Okay, and again, we've created something that's a piece of rubbish that would have been tossed aside, maybe recycled into something else, but usually just tossed aside into landfill, and you've made a piece of art from it. Okay, thank you, enjoy.